Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, it seems once again the mask has slipped. The left keeps screaming about grassroots energy and all the authentic voices that they try to platform, but as per usual, behind the curtain it's always the same thing. A bought and paid for machine. The totally astroturfed online engine of the Democrat Party. It's very clear the Democrats are not winning in the arena of debate, they're not winning on the issues, and they're clearly not winning people over, but it also seems like that's not even necessarily the intention. Why win over people? Why create an actual grassroots movement when you could simply just cut a check and build a totally astroturfed fake online community that looks organic, but in reality is nothing more than a shill farm for the DNC war room? Well, of course, we've been talking about this for a while, especially in relation to Harry Sisson and his little butt buddies, and now the story continues after a massive leak of what they're really up to hits the internet. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so this week it was exposed by, surprisingly, Taylor Lorenz of all people, that a DNC-linked outfit tied to Brian Tyler Cohen, another one of those paid shill professional leftoid operatives, well, he and the outfit that he created has been paying online content creators up to $8,000 a month to push Democrat talking points online. And Taylor Lorenz reports how basically you have to sign a contract that restricts the content that you're allowed to post. In other words, you can only push what is DNC approved. And so obviously this is newsworthy. $8,000 a month being paid to online mouthpieces, not to make honest commentary, not to cover the news with integrity, but to be a literal DNC shill, just like Harry Sisson. In other words, they want more Midas touch and less organic commentary. And so the news was met with outrage and of course ridicule from the other side. But if you listen to the leftoid talking heads, they're trying to convince us that actually this is a good thing, says David Pakman.
For years I've been saying the left needs to organize independent media in the way that the right has been doing. The left needs to fund independent creators the way that the right does. The right has won even arguably presidential elections because they're organized with regard to online and independent media. They're killing us. We've been so behind. And this kind of support for creators is exactly what I've been advocating for.
He's defending this not only as if it's normal, but as if it's desperately needed. He claims that this is actually what he's been calling for forever. The Democrats must do it because they're losing the battle and Republicans are already doing it. Look, maybe he's trying to take our gerrymandering argument. Texas is gerrymandering Texas because Democrats have done it to absolute oblivion. But I'm not so sure it works in this instance. The notion that right-wing talking heads are being paid by the GOP to push a specific agenda is completely ridiculous. It simply isn't happening on the other side. And how do I know this? Well, because I'm one of those right-wing commentators. And I've been here for quite some time. I've also witnessed the genesis of this online right-wing movement. I think it's blatantly obvious that what we've built here is totally grassroots. In some cases, you'll see independent media outfits form, like Daily Wire, TPUSA. I guess we could add Timcast, Louder with Crowder. There's a bunch of them at this point. And look, you may have your disagreements or your issues with some of these organizations, but I think people cannot deny that these are independent organizations that all differ from each other. They're ideologically different. In other words, they all represent relatively different agendas. It's not exactly the same thing as creating a monolithic, top-down internet propaganda empire, which is, of course, exactly what the Democrats are trying to do. On our side, we started from nothing. We built our own audience. And the fact that we dominate online social media, a lot of it has to do with the fact that we've been shunned from mainstream media. We had to do it as a response. That's the entire way that my channel started. Just seeing all the lies, all the propaganda, the double standards, the totally unfair and unbalanced coverage coming out of the mainstream media, I viewed that as a call to action. I need to jump in the arena on social media and start telling the story the way that I see it. And the idea that we're all just Republican shills being paid to push the talking points, obviously that doesn't stand up considering we speak truth to power. There's a significant amount of criticism and Republican infighting that happens. We're not paid to push whatever Donald Trump says or whatever the Republican establishment says. We often criticize Republican leadership. And also, secondly, we don't need the damn money. The idea that I would sell my soul for $8,000 a month, frankly, is laughable. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to sound out of touch and elite, and, getting into money is always a little bit bit of a sensitive issue, but most people who have relatively successful commentary channels online, they do pretty damn well. The idea that you would risk your entire brand, your entire platform, your credibility for a small figure like that? No frickin' way. You can make way more money just doing sponsorships. And the number itself I think is important. It kind of exposes the truth. They're paying online content creators up to $8,000 a month. That means they're targeting people who aren't established yet. In other words, the Democrats are trying to fake a grassroots movement. They don't have the online presence that they wish they did, and so they're trying to pay money to help bring up some unproven and unestablished talent. They're trying to get in the door early, invest early, boost some careers here, and then of course they'll have those people in their pockets. They'll probably sign them to some predatory contracts that locks them into some agency, and then, you got an ideological prisoner like Harry Sisson pushing the most insanely idiotic rage bait for the rest of his life as some sort of DNC puppet. They want what we have so bad, but again, they don't seem to understand how it's done. It's like the Joe Rogan thing. Clearly we won over Joe Rogan in 2024, and then from their perspective, that made Joe Rogan far right. Ooh, he's one of us. But the reality was, it was organic. Joe Rogan just happened to side with us slightly in the election. Joe Rogan isn't ours. That's not how that works. But the way the Democrats see it is, we need to make our own Joe Rogan. No, you absolute dummies. You need to win over people like Joe Rogan by winning on the ideas. But they obviously don't understand this. They don't understand that what we've created was an organic grassroots counterculture movement. You can't fake that. And if you really wanted to create it to the extent that, Democrats want to, it's going to cost a whole lot more than $8,000 a month per creator. You need to spend billions upon billions of dollars to fake the kind of engagement and cultural movement that we've created. And just think about what this says about the Democrat Party as a whole. They obviously cannot inspire people. They can't attract talent and authenticity organically. Their base is clearly so weak that it seems they literally have to try to rent it. But I think they're going to learn the hard way. You can't fake authenticity. You can't fake grassroots. And when you try, well, you just end up with a bunch of embarrassing shills that make you look completely foolish and weak. And also, in a way, just think about how evil what they're trying to do is. They're trying to create an army of minions that they can control, a propaganda army that does the bidding of the shadowy elite in the DNC headquarters. It's frankly dystopian. And the idea that any leftist, especially an independent commentator like David Pakman, the idea that any of these clowns would be defending this, well, it shows you how morally corrupt these people are. And I guess all I gotta say is, are we really surprised that this little scheme is coming from somebody like Brian Tyler Cohen? I've said it since day one, this guy is not organic. His views are not organic. I mean, he puts nothing into his thumbnails and titles. His commentary is complete trash. And yet somehow he's the golden boy on YouTube politics. There is nothing organic about that guy. He is a studio product. And now the left is trying to create an entire army of these clowns. I don't know about you guys, but I have a feeling if Democrats continue pursuing this, it's going to backfire so spectacularly in their face. Either that or they're going to succeed and create some sort of evil empire. But of course, like most things, we'll have to let it play out and we'll just see where it goes. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.